everyone, welcome to Should I Just Quit My Job? I'm Maricella Herrera and I'm your host. Thanks for being here with me. This podcast means so much to me because the conversations I'm having on it have all been so meaningful, inspiring, and helpful. Honestly, incredibly helpful in navigating this time of transition in my life. And it's no secret that I use a lot of these conversations to kind of work through the questions I have in my mind about my own journey. Hoping that by talking about these, by sharing these with all of you, and by sharing stories of other people who have made big changes in their lives, you might also see some of the things that you're struggling with and get some ideas and answers to your own questions. And because of the conversations I'm having on this podcast, I'm realizing there's so many incredible, smart, talented, high achieving, most women, I will say, but also some men who have recently or are currently navigating something very similar to what I'm dealing with. This moment of, wait, what? This is what we're doing? This is what I'm doing with my life? Is this what really is making me happy? Like, what do I really want? Basically, there are many women who are awesome who are also going through a little bit of a what the fuck moment, and who are also going through a little bit of a time of reinvention, so to speak. Everyone has a unique take and is approaching this time with a different flavor, so to speak, and calling it different things. I've heard people say, oh, I'm in this liminal space, or, I tend to say I'm navigating the messy middle. I think the essence of what we're going through or have gone through is very similar. We want to align our life with our purpose and values more, and we all want to actually be happy and enjoy life, not just live to work, but work to live. The person who I'm going to introduce you to today is one of these wonderful people I've met. The way she calls this moment of transition or that moment of, I want something different, is her midlife awakening. So I'm delighted to introduce you to Jacqueline Oliveira Cella, who is one of these women and someone who I've had several conversations with about, navigating this time and also shifting the discomfort that comes with this time into something that is more of a purpose-driven action. That's what she calls it, and I believe it's a really accurate term of phrase. Jackie brings over 15 years of experience in U.S. and global health, wealth, and well-being sectors. She has a long career in global health, insurance, retirement, and employee benefits. So her focus has always been building these client-centered solutions. And she realized at some point, this is again her midlife awakening, that she wanted to find more joy. She wanted something that could bring her again this excitement she had felt. And so she threw herself into 3 pillars. She's very structured, again, actuarial background. 3 pillars, one of them being learning, where she enrolled and continued executive education at Harvard Medical School. Another pillar on her achievement and creating her consultancy. And then the third one, which was creating health at work, which are these really interesting collaborations that Jackie looks at as a social initiative where she can share knowledge, resources, and research on topics such as menopause at work, mental fitness, burnout in the healthcare sector, and really break these topics down so that employees can better advocate for their health in the workplace and companies can actually build better solutions for their employees. She approached her midlife awakening by keeping busy in the best way possible. And I should not be one to speak because clearly I threw myself into doing a podcast. This is one of those episodes where I just had to press record because the pre interview chit chat was starting to get deep and I didn't want to miss any of it. So you'll see it starts a little bit different than most of the episodes. I just had a really great conversation with Jackie. She's fantastic. I always enjoy talking to her. And we cover everything. We go from imposter syndrome to the importance of balancing authenticity with compassion and self awareness. We talk about building trust within teams. We talk about the difference and the challenges you face when transitioning your career from one culture to another, or when dealing with global teams and cultures. And I think if you are someone that's hitting that moment of like, wait, is this what I am meant to be doing? You'll find a lot of great stuff in this conversation, and you'll meet another person who's right there with you. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and without further ado, let's go to my interview with Jackie.
But when you are in front of a camera, usually the other way around happens, right?
Yes.
All of our conversation that naturally flows sometimes gets as if when you are on a job interview or
Hmm.
when people are talking to someone that it's their first time, like the first
Yeah.
encounter. It's hard for you to take the all the layers of protection that you create.
And it's funny about that, actually, the layers of protection, because we put on so many of those, especially as you spend more time in the corporate or the business world.
And you do that sometimes out of respect for others. So that's one. Everybody praises authenticity, but authenticity without intention, that's how I would frame, it's self centered. It's like I'm calling attention to myself, to my issues, as opposed to I'm saying something that can actually benefit others. Right. So every time I see those big shout out for being authentic, I said, there are people that should not be authentic, at least not all the time, because their way of being authentic could hurt others. You want to be authentic, you want to share, but you also need to listen to the surroundings, to what's around you, particularly if you are a people manager. Right? Imagine the situation you are in the middle of a very time consuming, purpose driven project with tight timelines and a lot of pressure. If you see someone on your team getting stuck, facing a struggle, what good it do to the project, to the team, that I come very clear with, let's say that I'm feeling upset with the situation because now it's impacting the whole project. So, how to yet be honest, be authentic, but at the same time bring compassion so we can actually understand the situation, first of all, listen. And if there is an opportunity for coaching to do something together and then let it go, because you don't want to be doing things for others, you want to be doing things with others, then it could become a teachable moment for both. And the project should get on its normal course. That's a good example of if I'm authentic to and honest to my emotions, I may actually create an environment where people cannot fail. And that is a beautiful recipe for disaster, meaning for lack of creative thinking, for lack of being able to feel safe in a certain space, because you never know who is my people manager or my project manager or the leaders of my organization. Really, do they get my back, right? Or it's just to say I get your back when everything is great, but if something is not, needs some adjustment, then unfortunately, like I was just talking to a friend of mine, and that was the situation he faced. Everything was great, praises to all corners of the world. However, when there was a client that was upset for a reason, but it was upset, as opposed to owning to the situation and understanding how to fix it, to solve it, the blame game happened. And then, of course, the key talent get completely disengaged, dismotivated. So when you think about antidote to a word that has been used a lot recently, burnout, how to avoid that disconnect and disengagement. It's like really treat people with trust, with respect. And I will keep saying over and over, because it's an exercise for me now, being authentic. I believe that we have always the opportunity to learn something new. So I keep observing my own patterns on, of course, we all get upset. A lot of us are type A and we want to see things moving. But sometimes when you feel the emotions, and that comes with time, but when you feel the emotions that can actually roadblock your success or whatever is happening with your team, maybe it's a time to do this. Take a pause and
I love that.
drink water. Hold that water, because if you're going to say what's on your mind without thinking, maybe you're going to say something that's going to hurt you and hurt others in the process. As part of that, the clients suffer, the company suffer.
I could unpack this in so many ways. This is why I like talking to you. I will say this because I think you are actually very authentic,
Thank you.
but you are also very self aware. That I think that's what you're saying. When you say authenticity without intention, it doesn't work. And I don't think it's the authenticity. Sure, be authentic, but be self aware. If you're going to be authentic, be aware of your position, because you are talking about managers, so you're people who are in a position of power. Whatever they say will affect the other people. Be aware of your intention. Are you going to hurt someone? Is that your intention, or your intention is to help them? And do it with compassion, which I think, honestly, a lot of that is missing today.
Yes. And you see that none of that says that I will not get things done. It just means that I will find a way to get things done, not through struggles, but through engagement, doing something that at the end of the road we will be not just proud of because of the accomplishment, but that actually helped, if it's a team, to really create meaningful connections and
Mhm.
understand that, well, that's a team that if I have the opportunity, if there is a safe space, right, for me to create and to give ideas or bounce ideas, that's the place to be. So you
Mm.
think about how much money companies spend to keep their talents engaged. Let's put in a position that compensation is the same, or as you grow up, whatever way you're growing, but as you evolve, compensation tends to be, and I know that I say that in a position that not everybody can be on the same position, but things like the relationship you have with the people that you work with, will most likely make you stay or leave. People talk a lot about rewarding and sharing gratitude. When gratitude is not authentic, it just leaves whoever worked so hard on it with a bad taste. Again, I think authenticity can be honesty, right? Integrity can be part of every different piece of work that we do. You will still be technical enough, you'll have enough knowledge. And when you don't have knowledge, that's the beauty of creating a space with trust. You will feel safe to ask for help. When people talk about creating a diverse environment,
Mm.
there are different ways to see that. It's not, there are diversity in numbers, which is maybe it's something that companies had to do to at least give opportunities to underserved populations. But when we think about teams that are high performers and you think about diversity, it's more so in terms of diversity of thought, where like
Mhm.
we have similar values, but you have different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds. And as a result of that, you can create something quite unique. I will give you an example. I believe that we should always invest into learning something that something of value to you, whatever that is, professionally or personal. It's something that resonates with me to always be curious about topics of interest. And in my case, it was I needed to know what is the latest in terms of AI and healthcare and digital transformation from a different angle. And so I went back to school. I spent the last year, on top of everything else that I was doing, being part of this executive program. I remember my first encounter because it was in person in Boston and people from all over the place. And I sat all the way on the back because I was, okay, I'm the only, I'm the one actuary on this entire role. Usually, when I'm with people that somewhat comes from a similar background or that's easier to relate intellectually. Well, 60% to 70% of my classroom were healthcare workers, so physicians, leaders on their fields. Then you had technologists, you had executives, leaders from different parts of the business. So once I was able to overcome what I don't love, that's how they call the imposter syndrome, like,
Mm.
which like throw that for me, it's like throw in a garbage because just where it came from. Let's call it, it's like fear of the unknown, right? It's, do I belong here? Once that barrier was broken, because once you see, oh, we are all here to learn something. If there was nothing to learn, we would not be on this classroom, right? If you are know it all, okay, so you go teach so you can learn even more. But no, everybody's on this. The moment you are able to get out of your head and bring things into perspective, and you have people with so many different backgrounds, well, that's the beauty, because then you are able, if you're creating a product, if you were creating a company, something new, you need that diversity of thought. So you can start with a problem to solve, understand where unmet needs and gaps are, and then work towards a solution together. And when everybody is leveled to, I can provide my feedback, I have a safe space to add value, no skin on a game. I don't need to have fear or to have any type of hesitation on how what I'm going to say is going to come out to others. Then you really can be yourself and add the best. I see the flow. You could see people so happy and engaged, and the outcome were like wonderful projects that really plant the seeds to change healthcare from different angles, from different points of view, and from different countries.
Yeah, there's so many things that I want to comment on. I want to go back first to the pause and the water because what you're talking about and what you, I think, have given us quite a few examples is this idea of psychological safety, of like people being able to contribute. And I was just right before jumping on this call, I was interviewing someone who wrote a book on psychological safety.
Oh, beautiful.
And one of the things that she was suggesting was silence and pause when you were talking to someone. So it was so perfect with the water. Silence and pause can be uncomfortable. And actually, we talked about that. But if you're having a glass of water,
That's
you're
it.
you're doing something,
You cannot talk. And
right?
I was joking like the other day I post about that because I do believe that our emotions serve a purpose. But sometimes if you allow your emotions to flow, particularly if we are talking about anger, and you are not able to control, like you are going to say something that 30 minutes from now when your body is back to normal you would be saying differently.
Yeah.
So having that pause is, it's for your own sake and for the sake of others. I'm not saying that every single time you have that opportunity, but have a glass of water nearby you. Nobody's going to shame you if you need to drink a little water. Of course you cannot be having tons of water, but it just helps you. And I joke, today's date with the technology, if you feel tempted to, if the situations is texting, right, hold two glasses of water until you can feel your body coming back to normal. Your like your heart rate is, it's way it's under control, and then your voice, your tone will work with you, not
Yeah.
against you.
I love that. I think it's so smart. It's so smart, the glass of water. You also mentioned imposter syndrome. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because you said that should go in the garbage where it came from. And I think you nailed it on the head because you were talking about imposter syndrome, but then you said it is really fear. I think a lot of people, and there's been quite a discourse about the fact that imposter syndrome has always been something that they tell us we have as a disease. And that's the reality is it is a fear of not belonging.
It's like, I don't want to get into the clinical side of that. I'm sure that there are plenty of explanation on how the brain works and behavior and etc. And the thing with imposter syndrome is that it has an old connotation that would be associated to female. And first
Yes.
of all, everybody has, when a circumstance is unknown, it's natural to have fear. Let's put the fear aside. You are in a circumstance, I mentioned the classroom, it could be a meeting, and the person who is running the meeting and the people around you up front embrace the diversity, acknowledge different levels of knowledge and background, and someone, and create that trust building, right? And if you are able to create that environment where people feel, I don't need to have fear, my voice will be heard, that fear will fade away. If you are somewhere, there is a reason for that. You
Yeah.
deserved. On it. And if you are like, things are not perfect, if you're going to a meeting, our encounters, you prepare something. That's also, I think, it's being considerate with whoever is with you. Try to prepare something for the meeting up front, prepare a few questions, areas where you believe you can add value, and listen. Sometimes asking the question, what is important to you, what is you trying to solve, will help you to build on your mind. So you start, what are the problems that I'm trying to solve? So again, that environment that allows for trust. Now I'm preparing myself before that encounter, if that's that, if I have that opportunity. And I start building how my skills, right? And how my skills can be used to solve for those problems. And then you also need to act, I would suggest that you act with honesty. If there is a certain problem that you don't have yet the skill built to be like built about, it's the expertise, bring someone that could help you, that could add value to the team. And that's, again, it's like building the building blocks of creating something magic. Now imagine another situation where the meeting starts. I go through goals, what's expected from the meeting, timeline, all the tactical stuff. But I failed to actually allow people to know each other, particularly if it's a new
Mhm.
team. It's very likely that no matter what seniority level, if it's something new, if it's a new topic for the group, people will take longer to embrace that opportunity to collaborate, to be on in a state of flow, like
Mhm.
to flourish, because they don't know how what they're saying is going to be taken. I was just listening for the second time to the book Daring Greatly.
The Brene Brown.
Yes, I
Yeah, daring greatly,
I'm
yes,
a
I
big
love that.
fan. And she was talking about even parenting, right? How, like, giving a few examples of how she was able to meet her kid where the kids were. I really love one of the circumstances where the kid came crying and went to the bedroom and had the lights off, and immediately she followed the kid, and she immediately thought about turning on the lights, and then she paused, say, hey, if the kid didn't turn on the light, maybe darkness and silent, it's what they need until they calm down and they are able to actually express themselves. So she is brilliant. She is one of the great researchers on authenticity. She tries to bring things to ground us.
The reason I'm smiling is because as you're talking, you're reminding me of Brene Brown. Like I said, you're very self-aware. You're also very research brained. The actuary in you comes and like is there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It reminded me.
Having the data helps you. For me, coming from an actuarial background, it just brings me the credibility and confidence that things sometimes, like, things make sense and you want to be validated, right? Or even like when you're so sure that things like what you're doing, oh boy, I could start a list of, okay, I am so certain that this is something that I have. You talk about research, and the more you research, you see that things sometimes our hypothesis can be proven with data. Other times you learn something new, right?
Mhm.
As part of the journey. So being open to, like, to again, to instead of bringing your truth to the table, to really take a step back and listen. And I'm not saying it's perfect, it's something that you need to keep working. Sometimes I do pause to think about specific situations where I would tell my younger self to pause to drink water as opposed to embrace traps, because it happens, right? I have been working from a very young age in a field back in Brazil, like going back to early 20s, and I had very interesting jobs. I'm very fortunate. I had some demanding jobs with amazing leaders that were super tough, but you learned so much out of them. And so many times I have been on meetings where I was the only female in a room and very young. So creating that defensiveness, that protection, that hard shell, right? Of no, I cannot even smile. I need to be tough, otherwise I will not be respected. It took me a while to be able to rebuild from that. I still remember, I think I was at the time with AIG, and during one of the executive coaching sessions, we did a role play of a presentation, like it was a new product that we are launching. I was leading the actuarial team. But the point was that I had that hard shell created from my prior jobs working for the Social Security Ministry as a contractor from the World Bank Consulting. I was taught to be tough. So during that particular session, I asked them to videotape me and then I watched myself. And I remember the executive coach sharing the tape with me. And he was like, "What do you think it's missing on this 5 minutes video?" And I paused and I like the words are sharp. I knew what I was doing. I had worked hard on a topic, and he was like, "Not once you smiled.
Wow.
Not once. You were like for the entire time as if you were marching." Like your expression was so stern. And then he made me smile. He made a joke. I'm like, there, that's where you need to go. Smiling does not, or having a more warmer presence, it should not be dictating what you can or you cannot do, right? It should not be determining who you are. And this was more than 20 years ago. So, yes, I learned how to smile. Sometimes I smile too much.
No, but I think that is how you create connection with other people, which at the end of the day, like you said, business is it's all people.
Yes. Yes. Oh, what is my other lesson learned? And that's I'm still learning. Immediately when someone tells me a problem, like my gut reaction is, what can I do to solve for this person? And sometimes one thing that they need, and this is with your kids or with your direct reports, is just someone to listen and maybe be
Mhm.
a little more curious about what exactly is creating the issue. Why is it an issue? Why they think it's an issue? What is creating the issue? And by being open to curiosity as opposed to jumping into how to solve for that person and taking away like their suffering, that's actually it's going to lead to a much richer connection wherever you are dealing with. So that's the second one. I'm still I'm a work in progress.
I think people who really wanna help have that problem. And it's not a bad problem, like, I remember listening to a podcast, and this guy was saying that he is like that. He, like, jumps to action to try to help if he sees his wife is dealing with a problem, and the wife just wants to be listened, so they've learned to ask, "Do you want my help, or do you want me to listen?"
Yeah, going back to the beginning of our conversation is, am I saying I'm trying to solve because I want to show that I have the solution and I don't even allow the person to finish the sentence because I know it all? Or or because you are expected to know it all? That's another
Mm.
point that people managers sometimes, and I have had that both ways, that if you are not with a solution right away, you are not seen as someone who brings
Mhm.
like. And I learned that working with so many different managers, sometimes their way of pulling the answer out of you, it's through questions. They don't have all the answers and don't expect them to have all the answers, but that's a learning. It comes
Yeah.
with maturity and lived experience. And again, if you are interrupting someone and jumping into the solution, are you really focusing on that person or on yourself and what you can do? Right. So it's, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm going to cut that husband too much of his life or myself for that, for all the times that I may have stopped my kids in the middle of their struggles, and not being curious enough.
I want to go back to your journey because we were talking about your time in Brazil. You spent a long time in the insurance world, so to speak, or employee benefits world. But you're now in the middle of a career change and you want to learn more about AI and healthcare because that's something that you're passionate about.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that decision.
Okay. So what I call midlife awakening, right? It's, I have worked with people risks throughout my career. So that's constant. When you think about actuaries, you think about people that are really good in math, but they are also very good on with risk management, with strategy. And in my case, I always tend to manage both the designing of different offerings, how to solve and create different offerings from end to end, and also pricing, like the whole building up business cases and etc. So when I was in Brazil, I had think about someone who you are always learning, but I was very well versed in one set of rules, one ecosystem. Once I moved to the States, I had to redefine and discover myself. I had to learn a language. When I moved here, while I was speaking in English before, but it's a big difference to be on a meeting and speaking English versus being on a day to day, switching
Mhm.
completely from your home tongue where you had all the technical knowledge. Think about language barrier I had to overcome, and put the fear away and the anxiety away by working really hard. And I had a career, a very good career,
Mhm.
back in Brazil, and I had to start over here. I had very good mentors and people that helped me along the way. So when you move into a new country, you embrace more things. In my case, I embrace it not just having knowledge about one country ecosystem for protection, because that's what insurance and employee benefits, what is their purpose, but to look on a global manner. My clients were global, so that brings a lot of think about the floodlight. And I still love people risk, is going to be like managing people risk is going to be part of my career, whatever I'm doing. But I wanted to do something where I could impact people's health, wealth, and well being, not just for one company, but broader. And also being able, having the space, talk about having the leadership and having the space that will enable you to create something
Yeah.
new, something that's not just for one company that has so many limitations that would be really hard to be at your best self. So, pausing, to having the luxury, I would say, to really pause and ask yourself, why am I feeling disconnected to something that I love? There is something to it that's not working. I don't mind working long hours, right? That's, I scrape that, but a work-life balance, that's a problem that I need to solve for. It has nothing to do with my employers, but I had very long hours, still checking. Like when I look back, I'm very proud of my team and my accomplishments and what we are able to create together. But the love for the activities, for the day to day, was fading away towards the end. And I knew I needed to do something so I could feel joy for the
Mm.
next half. So that's what I called my midlife awakening. It took me a while to even realize, instead of saying I hit burnout points, I would say I hit a point that I was unhappy, truly unhappy. And for people that know me, I love I do enjoy working. I enjoy being able to create something of value to someone else, like to the companies that I'm working with, or to the clients that I'm working with. So the pause was very helpful. I revisited what made sense for me in terms of purpose. I wanted to refocus more on healthcare, even though I come from the retirement and financial background and have evolved for the last 15 years into healthcare and well-being, but I wanted to see healthcare from a different angle. So aligning my purpose with action was built over time. At first, I knew that I have a lot of knowledge being built, and I also knew that there are so many employees who are unable to advocate for their own health at work. Hence, when Health at Work was created, I, it's part of what I have been doing over my time as a professional. What are the key health risks that are mostly impacting employees? I had the data, I
Mhm.
have the knowledge. So why not start with, I don't know if you're familiar with the statistics, but basically 83% of the medical costs are driven by 20% of the population. So why not look into the 20%? What are the healthcare conditions that are driving that medical cost? What can we do about it? So then you come across cardiovascular diseases, you come across diabetes, mental health. And mental health is tricky because mental health, it's usually has a comorbidity. So for example, if you look at diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular diseases, musculoskeletal diseases, pain management, all of those can impact your mental health.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you see a large volume of claims with mental health, and one light bulb that I had was, well, what is causing what? Right? So that's Health at Work. That's how it was created. It's pretty much a tool that will fulfill two purposes. And it's an ever evolving, it's a collaboration that's published via LinkedIn. Purpose number one, provide data. So usually it's structured as, what is the condition? Why should you care? What's the demographic? Who is impacted? What happens if employers and the healthcare systems do nothing? And how to take action. And the how to take action usually is split into three points. And one is awareness, to even bring awareness to the situation. Mental fitness, for example, awareness could be not just being able to pause and be aware of your surroundings, all the great stuff that we were talking, like creating an environment of trust,
Yeah.
creating an environment where people are still performing. So you see, creating an environment of trust is not the same as I'm offering healthcare.
Yeah, they're very different.
So
Yeah.
great that you have access to mental health, but if the cause of that lack of mental fitness is the environment you are working on, you are putting a band-aid and then at the same time creating more hurt. So it's being able to actually split into awareness, what I'm trying to solve for, who needs to get that knowledge, when that knowledge needs to be delivered. Then you think about the second part, which is empowering with education, empowering with knowledge. And the third piece is, what is the support system that needs to be created? If it's a physical change of your work environment. So, for example, with menopause, one of the learnings as I was working with many women passing through menopause, you may just need additional accommodations, more ventilation, flexible hours, or even like working from home if you had a very bad night of sleep due to hot flashes and what else that comes with this stage of life. And then the third piece is care. It could be the mental health care, it could be the menopause care, getting access to targeted care that could actually resolve your problem as opposed to creating more churns. Pillar number one, created health at work, all the great stuff that I talked about. Pillar number two, I created a consulting group. My clients now are healthcare solutions, well-being solutions, and the focus is on whatever problem they are trying to solve. But usually I focus on metrics, not just the clinical, but the metrics that could measure performance of their offerings for employers. Also, on how to redesign and reshape their offerings to really address the needs of employers and create more value. I've been on the receiving end of so many vetting and reviewing offerings where I had to co-create with them, and I'm minding my words to create the right data settings. So over time, you can actually prove your value. And it's much harder when you are doing that midway on your product as opposed to right from the start to know which data to put it together and how to create the right value. So creating meaningful value for those organizations is part of what I aim to do with them and with the system. Again, you are always learning, which leads me to the third pillar, which is learning. Well, that should be an evergreen for hopefully for everybody to be open to learn something new. A long awakening. I didn't buy a Ferrari. I didn't party all over the town, even though I'm Brazilian, so I love like a good celebration. So I went back to do something new, created a company, created a social impact initiative that continues to evolve. We just launched a new one, which I'm very proud. I put a lot of energy on those collaborations. It's not about me, it's about how I'm going to be, how others will be using that knowledge. So I try to be comprehensive as opposed to be superficial. And what makes it rich is all the insights that I get from healthcare experts, industry leaders, insurance leaders, and so on.
Yeah, the idea of midlife awakening, I really like how you call it. The reality is you hit a point where you kind of question, am I happy? Am I not happy? Why am I feeling this? I've been saying like it's not a coincidence I quit my job when I turned 40. Women don't do the Ferrari. The midlife crisis is a myth. There's research saying that. We do something different. And like you went and did defined what you were passionate about, like finding that purpose and values and what that is that would make you happy. When you think about the three pillars you're talking about, let's put aside the work. I think the work is really interesting, particularly menopause and mental health, both things that are I'm very interested in personally because one's been a struggle and the other one I will get there soon enough. The three pillars were learning, constant learning, right? You're continuing to learn. You're continuing to achieve because you're consulting your business, like this part, and you're doing something that has purpose and meaning for impact, so to speak, to the world. And I remember talking a lot before I quit my job about motivation and the psychological theories of motivation. And those are three. Humans are motivated and happy because they need and connection, which you said collaboration, because they need to feel like they're growing and learning. They need to feel like they're accomplishing. They need to feel like they're having a purpose, and they need to feel connected.
Yeah,
So
it's whatever they are doing, it matters, right? That's the pause. You don't need to wait until like you are midlife. Maybe journal or start your checks earlier. So it's easier for you to keep true to your purpose, to your values. Even when life, have I ever thought that I would be moving countries, that I would have to restart and rebuild myself so many times? No, that was not part of the cards. That's I had just finished my second MBA when I left Brazil. What I'm trying to say here is put embrace change happens. Life is impermanent. You are it. And I know it's silly to be saying things like that, those sentences, but basically, what I'm trying to say here is you own it. You are it. You are the change you want to really see making. Yesterday, I was on a call where I caught myself like listening to someone who is, it was like a mirror to me, because the person said something on the lines, sometimes I pause, and that's the moment of being authentic here. Hopefully, this will resonate with your audience, Marcella, and say, and do my meditation. And then just my ask is open, like that's the doors of help me to think this through in a way that I don't, because when you take action towards change, it's hard. You will need to have that strength and a supporting network. You
Mhm.
have the friends, you have the family. Like, not everybody. That's why I'm very conscious about saying I had the luxury of creating the change that I want to see. And if I could tell my younger self, is do that sooner. Like, in my younger years, I did not have the luxury to say, I will pause and go for a PhD now, and I have someone to support me. That was not part of what was available to me. I knew I was on my own and I had to build something before I could bring my pause. But I waited for a long time. Maybe I could have created that pause as I was walking the path, like with the cards that were dealt to me. And I'm very grateful for every single experience that I had. And I know that I also have been giving a lot of great opportunities to learn, that I grabbed as much as I could. So the one, if I could tell my younger self, just be more attuned and aware of all the actions, all the great long hours that you put on a job. I don't know. This, with the new generation, like sometimes they are a little better than we are. The first product that I launched, where we are testing the systems, I recall sleeping on my desk at 3 a.m. because we are launching on the next day. I was very young, so we are talking about one of my second job or so. And that was fun. That's like, it doesn't matter how many hours, I was doing something fun. Should
Mhm.
have kept that, because I remember until today, meaning the launch of something new, to create something innovative, to bring something of value to people. That's the feeling that now, 20 years on the road, I want to have again. And I'm chasing that feeling. So if I could tell my younger self, keep that memory alive, because it's easier to be seduced by life and
Yes.
everything that happens with it. You forget the stuff that really brings you joy.
I love that. We forget what makes us keep going, or we just keep going because that's the
Yeah.
idea. Like you keep going. I was listening to this podcast. They said that the best way to find your values is to think of moments and experiences that made you really happy. And they're like, think of five, like the happiest you've been. And what are the things that are connected? And like when you're talking about this product launch and when you're talking about health at work, like I can see that happiness of like you're building something, you're creating something. And we forget.
Yes, it's very easy to forget. If you can think and journal and keep that on your mind, the moments you cherish, even when you are school age, I'm sure that there are moments that you're like, yes, that's it. That was really a great experience, because that can be replicated.
Mhm.
Right? Not exactly the same, but it could be replicated somewhere else. The other message that if I can share a little bit of my lived experience, is if you feel that you're stuck, like on crossroads of your life, my suggestion and my own path was find where help can be given, right? Find your path to that healing, find your path to that realignment of purpose and action. And that comes with either, if you need to talk to a mental health professional to help you. Really, one of the things that I found beautiful, it took me just 20 years to do that, but with therapy, is they help you to figure out what patterns you keep repeating
Mm-hmm.
and what you can do something about it, right? So things that you don't even realize. If you have a good therapist, they can help you with that. On my own path, then you also may need to think of what are the mentors. I would actually suggest people that can complement your knowledge. Find several mentors for different parts of your life that needs to be rebuilt, and find the ones that are also tough, that will give you some tough love when you are ready for that tough love. But someone who will say, hey, it's great, like I had when I was starting working on this, what integrated care could look like. It's great that you're thinking about it. We have spent millions, if not billions, on it. But it's cute, but what exactly are you going to, how to make this into a profitable business? So then it just pokes you to, okay, I'm on the right track, but I may need to think where that particular solution that you are, or new venture that you want for your life, how that can be sustainable. Whatever you are doing, how what you are planning to do next can be something that it's sustainable, that will help you to continue being aligned with your purpose, but also will create the means for that, create the means for you to enjoy a little more of what you were doing. And you also need the friends. That's the last year learning, is be open to create. I'm an introvert, so it's not something that naturally comes to me to just even though it's like I do a lot of networking, and the way I'm able to do that, one is like I tend to be respectful and professional about my connections, and I try to find alignment in values and in something that I could be offering to that other party. In that way, if one day I'm able to learn something from that connection, it just means that we are building something special, right? As a response of that. So don't be afraid of finding your mentors, finding the people that can open your mind in ways that you can find a easier path to align your purpose with your action.
Thank you, Jackie.
Oh, it
This was
was a pleasure. Thanks for making me very comfortable.
oh good. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Should I Just Quit My Job? I hope you found our conversation insightful, inspiring, and maybe even a little bit cathartic. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow, subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps me reach more listeners just like you who are navigating their own career journeys. Remember, quitting your job, being laid off, walking away isn't the end. It's really the beginning of a new adventure. Whether you're contemplating a big move or you're already in the thick of it, know that you're not alone. We're all figuring it out together, one episode at a time. If you have any questions, stories to share, or topics you'd like us to cover, drop me an email at quitmyjobpod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep taking those leaps of faith. Who knows? The best part of your story might just be around the corner. Take care and talk soon.